Welcome back, everybody. This is Autofocus. I'm Dan Kraft. You know Brooke Galligan over there. And today we've brought in a couple of in-house experts, and we're going to talk B-roll.
Woo! Roll. Yeah.
Oh, is that the technical term?
It's the technical term if you didn't
Roll.
know. Roll. Yeah. Gotta roll the R.
So why don't you guys introduce yourselves? So Sam?
My name's Sam Lewandowski, and I am the customer success specialist here at podcastvideos.com.
My name is Coco. My legal name is Nicole Vasquez.
Oh, you're talking about that's
Yeah. And I work at the front desk, but I also do a lot of our advertising and a lot of marketing.
Yes.
It's great.
You know, your legal name, you know how many takes we had to do on one of the first episodes because I wasn't sure what to call Brooke.
I know.
The woman of many
My
titles.
legal name is 4 names. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a lot.
We won't mention that live.
11 vowels.
It's a lot of vowels.
Yeah.
Okay, forget the vowels. We're talking about B.
B-roll, but back to
B
the
is
subject.
for B-roll. Guys, this is your forte. Guys, girls. I am basically here to moderate and smile and nod because I come from a newspaper background. We didn't do a whole lot of video. But obviously we figured out a few things about shooting video, but sometimes you don't want to look at us. Me. Let's talk about how you can splice other video into your show within the editing process, even ahead of time, because that is called B-roll.
Roll. Yeah.
Roll. B-roll. Yeah. I think the benefit of B-roll is it can enhance any video that you normally have. So first off, a lot of people I don't think understand what B-roll even is. They're kind of like, what? Especially if you don't have a technical background. And so in a technical sense, your A-roll is your main video. So what you're watching right now, that would be considered A-roll. It's on the main track. And then B-roll is just the secondary track. It's the stuff that goes over the main stuff. There's a saying that's like when you're placing B-roll, it's like if you say cow, you want to see a cow. And so that's kind of like a good thought process to think about when you're like, well, what even is B-roll? What do I put? You put what you're talking about. You put what's relevant. And that just helps give the audience and the listeners a little bit better of an understanding of what you're speaking on. So,
I think the easiest thing I've seen that relates to this is when you're watching the 5 o'clock news. And yes, we're going a little old school here. You will see the reporter standing there. They will have a mic in their hand. They will be talking, and then they'll keep talking, but suddenly they will cut to the plane crash, the traffic jam, and then we're showing those pictures. That's the B-roll that's been shot separately.
yeah.
But you actually hear the person talking. So in the actual file, like both of those files live together, like the A-roll and the B-roll. So like that's why it's called A-roll, B-roll.
So you're replacing the video,
yeah,
but
it's
keeping
like
the
so
audio track underneath it.
what the people see once it's exported is just it looks like just one big thing, but there's actually like layers to it.
Sure. Okay, obviously we're not, hiding a camera out there and just hitting a button that says go to B-roll, go to B-roll. How do you get it? How do you get it in?
I will say I had no experience in videography before this, so props all to Sam. We just like round
Clap.
She taught us everything as we were there, like on set, on how to do B-roll. The first set of B-roll clips that we had, because I'm so used to like social media, and it's just like a boom, 1, 2, boom, 1, 2, boom, 1, 2. It's just clips of everything, and really you only stay like
2 seconds?
2 seconds, 3 seconds. So I didn't know that you had to like pan, or I didn't know that you could like have something in the foreground to like make it more interesting.
What's the most helpful thing that you learned?
Yeah, probably that. And
Like
immediately after I started doing it for one of my friends, Cece, they had like a video shoot, and like all the dancers were dancing. They had like the big stand for the lights. So I had that. It made it look so much more interesting because it made them look like they were in that environment. So props to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Coco.
It's more like adding another short video in than a snapshot.
Yeah.
Although you can use graphics or other still shots for B-roll. Traditionally, it is a separate video clip, longer than a few seconds.
And you want to make the clip longer than what you're going to use it for.
Yes.
So that's why it's like you do 6 to 10 seconds, even though you're only going to use like 2 or 3.
I think the biggest roadblock or fail that happens when someone tries to tackle B-roll is you never you never have enough.
never
You never
enough.
like
There's
you
never
think
enough.
I just shot
don't.
so much, and then you sit down to put it together, and you're like, I need 3 times whatever I just shot. So a good rule of thumb is always shoot like 3 times more than what you think. And to Brooke's point, 3 times as long of a clip as what you think, because you're shooting it and you're like, that'll be great, and then you sit down and you're like, this should have been like 5 seconds longer.
Yeah. And also because like, you think like, oh, that'll be three seconds, but when it like comes up in the screen and then it goes away, like it's not like your eye, like you need to give enough time for the viewer's eye to adjust, see what it is, recognize what it is, and then you can move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And so you want to make sure that like you can't. There's no such thing as too much B-roll.
And what I've noticed, like while editing, is that you also need to give your hands like a chance to like stabilize themselves. For some reason, like those 2 to 3 seconds in the very beginning, it's like your hands are like, okay, all right, and shooting now.
Well, especially if
It's
you're filming on a
smooth.
phone.
Yeah.
Like that, you got to press the button. So you usually shake the camera and then your hand gets back set. And so, whatever you start with.
And it happens again at the end because you have to go back to
Stop.
push the button again. So.
Or you like put it down slightly, or you move it up slightly. Yeah.
Okay, here's an editing question. Obviously, you shoot more B-roll. You can always trim it down, right? So rather than try to, in the editing process, edit the audio to match the length of the clip, you take the audio you've got. Let's say it's a 12-second report. And then you take your B-roll and trim it to 12 seconds. You don't start with the video and then match the audio in. You keep the audio underlying and then lay the video in as needed.
Yes. Yeah.
That's why the audio is the A-roll. So you're telling the story, like the audio version comes first, and then you tell the story with more visuals.
The whole point of B-roll is to enhance the video that you currently have. Any video without B-roll could be its own video and live on its own, but it'd be a lot better if you added some B-roll.
How complex does it make the editing process compared to straight A-roll editing?
I think that really comes down to what you're editing in. A lot of free, simple tools online. Well, I go back and forth. I think it depends on what tool you use to edit on. There's a lot of tools online for free. Brooke found DaVinci, which is a really great substitute for Premiere Pro if you don't have the budget to get the Adobe subscription, and that's a timeline-based editing tool. So it has that multi-layer tracks that you can put in. Your A-roll, your B-roll, your C-roll, your D-roll, whatever you want.
It
You can go a lot. And even like phone-based editing apps, I think CapCut has the same capabilities, right? So it's not really complex. If you're used to timeline-based editing tools, then you'll be able to quickly drag and drop. It could be a limitation of the tool, though, if they don't have that capability.
Okay.
Yeah. So Coco, since you were new to this, and what did you learn the most when you sat in there? What was the easiest to use? DaVinci, CapCut?
I will say CapCut is fairly easy, but DaVinci, you can make it as easy as you need it to. And that's why I found it really helpful. There's some limitations with like iMovie or what's the other one that Apple has? Final Cut. Final Cut.
Okay.
Final Cut.
There's a free version of Final Cut?
No, I
okay.
paid for it. But
Oh,
even that
alright.
one kind of has, a hurdle. Like you have to learn a lot more than I feel like you do on DaVinci.
And there's simpler versions of B-roll where you just have one segment within your show that has an overlay. That's one add-in. If you're going to splice in multiple cuts from multiple cameras from multiple times, you are looking at a more complex process to get them all layered in correctly. Yes?
Yeah, it definitely adds a step to your point. I mean, you cut the story together, and if that's all you want to do, then you're done. The second step would be now I got to go back through it and place my B-roll so that I know what I'm going to show.
If you want to do any kind of special effects or add text or anything like that, that's when you start getting into the other layers.
So with the B-roll generally, you're going to lay out, call it your A-roll, your audio, your video track. You're going to see everything through, and then you're just going to go back and put the B-roll where you want it. Just cover up the original video side, keep the audio, but it's late in the step. You got to get the big show put together first and then go in and patch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, when I was doing documentaries, like it was, I would do it in sections. And so like I'd be like, okay, I'm going to put together this section, but I would put all the interviews together and I would splice all that together, and then I would put the B-roll on it. and then I would have to go back and reshoot because I never got enough B-roll, and so then I would leave holes knowing like, okay, now I know. Now that I've seen the story, now I know exactly what B-roll I need to go get. But you want to try to get as much of it as possible.
Yeah.
So, but that was a more long form, and so you just kind of break it up into section. But for the short form, yeah, you basically just lay your audio out, and then you just plop the video on top.
We've talked about B-roll pretty much entirely in a video sense, but you can B-roll an audio clip into things too, correct? You can drop a separate audio clip in that wasn't out of your A-roll, that was recorded separately. It's like bringing in an interview.
Yeah.
And like having background music or something.
Sure.
Background music, gnat sounds. So if you see a cow, if you're talking about a cow, then you see a cow, you can also hear a cow.
That's true.
Yeah.
I will say back to your documentary thing, something that I learned because of Sam. Thank you, Sam. Again, I'm going to just keep on saying that, was whenever I first started, I would do like, okay, people talking, B-roll, people talking, B-roll, people talking, B-roll, B-roll, people talking. And it looks very, for me, I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine. But it looks kind of choppy if it's like not B-roll, 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 people talking, if that makes sense. And a lot of people use B-roll to like hide different things or
Yeah, like hiding jump cuts is a big reason to use B-roll, especially in a social media sense.
Yes.
You got to make it quick, engaging, fast. You can't get around those quick cuts. But if you put a video over it, then people don't even know that you cut it together. It's a little less jarring.
Yeah.
Speaking of the transitions, are there any tricks to fade in, fade out to a cut to B-roll to make it smoother than I'm talking, you don't see me anymore? Are there any fades or audio or
I don't know if
tricks
this
you can
is
put together?
I don't know if this is correct, but this is what I do. Usually, like, let's say for example, I'm talking and then I go, and then I will put the B-roll kind of like in the middle of the word. I don't know if that's actually correct.
No, yeah.
Like, so then it's a continuous word, and then it feels more smoother than it
like
going
a hard pause jump.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, and that's a good point, is like placing the B-roll seems simple in thought, and it can be, but it's also super strategic in how you do it and how the listener hears it. It's also subjective. You might think, oh, I don't see anything wrong with it, and another person can go, oh my gosh, I can't believe you put that B-roll clip there.
Yeah.
So.
It's all about just like, as long as like it makes sense to be there, it doesn't, if they're saying the word, then that's when the B-roll should appear. They shouldn't, like, you shouldn't talk about a cow and then show a cow like right afterwards.
Right. I think it's also important that like B-roll can change. You see this in reality shows all the time. You can totally change the story. You could be saying one thing, and with no B-roll, you're like, yeah, that means this. And then, you say something else and you place certain B-roll over it, and it can change the meaning. A good example is like we had a client that was speaking about, how he came from like a lesser situation. He worked really hard to come into his money, and he was super humble. And we had mistakenly, just in our editing process, put like a video of him in a really nice suit with like a Rolex watch, and it was like, that just makes him sound super not.
Yeah, it's not relatable.
Yeah, that's not humble at all.
So,
and so
B-roll can add irony. I
Yes.
like it. Okay.
Yeah.
Intentionally or otherwise.
Yeah, so you have to be careful about like what you're placing where, and how that maybe changes the message or the tone. For sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Guys, what else about Brol do we need to know?
Coco, you're the one that's done this. You're the newest to it. What was your experience when you as you venture into video editing?
I think it changed everything. Like, rightfully so. Now I see like the necessity for it, and the necessity for it for like even my friends. So a lot of my friends are artists or dancers, or dancers are artists as well. But like whenever they have an event, I'm like, oh, if you need anybody to take videos, and I know how to do it properly now, or I know how to
Make it a little bit more engaging.
Yeah, make it more engaging. Yeah.
There's the idea that experience will tell you when you're out throwing A-roll together to know, I need more of this. I need B-roll.
Yes.
Well, I'm here because you can't go back and get it later. Eventually, you kind of can, especially if you know what your topic is and how it's trending, you can decide that you need a shot of your car driving by the cows in the field because you know you're going to. I almost said talk to a cow, talk about a cow.
Yeah.
Boom, there's your B-roll. You don't have to interview the cow. You just need a picture of them. You're moving. There's a little more to it than just, oh, look, a cow.
Yeah.
They're not that animated.
They're not. And we really talk a lot about cows in this one. We
really
do
have.
not have a cow podcast, and we are not trying to promote cows. But one thing I wanted to mention, though, is when I started doing video editing, every time I watch TV now, like I watch it with a different sense, because like you're like, oh, I know how they put that together. Do you guys do that now? Have you ever watched TV and you're like, oh, I know how they do
I don't
that.
think I do that for TV, but I do that for like socials. Like whenever I scroll on social media, I go, oh wow, like I see how they took that shot, or especially now, like because I'm looking more into lighting and stuff. This is a completely different conversation, but I'm like, oh wow, I see how like they did a key light on that part, and they have background lights on here, and like where they positioned things in their shots. Yeah.
It is like that when you're watching.
Completely ruined your enjoyment of media, hasn't it?
Yeah, but it's like you see a TV show and you see like somebody like they show the front of like an apartment, and then you walk into the apartment and it's like giant, and you're like, that is not what that apartment looks like inside. There's no way it's that big.
I have to watch TV with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's like all of my friends are like, how do you even enjoy movies anymore? Because I'm like, oh no, that, but like whatever little thing you're just like,
that's not realistic at all.
I'll never see it.
That's
I won't watch trailers for that reason.
Really?
Because I'm like, kind of how you see media on social media differently. I'm like, oh, I can see how they're going to cut this together to hide the story in a strategic way, so it's still not a spoiler, or like I know what I would put in there to make it sound engaging and what's probably a big plot point. Yeah. So I don't watch them. For movies I like.
I know, and you're like, and that's all the action in the movie.
Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah.
Those are the three
part.
jokes and the explosion. That's all you get.
You've seen the movie.
Yep. So use B-roll. That's kind of my ending point.
Yeah.
And apparently go hang out with cows more.
Yeah.
We like cows, and then B-roll. It makes everything better.
There you go.
It really does.
Guys, I'm sure we'll revisit this topic at some point, or maybe we'll go right into everything else Coco mentioned, since we do have them trapped.
Yeah.
But for now, that is this episode of Autofocus. Thanks for being here.
See ya.
Thanks.